What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Neon Veil. I'm your host, Cousin Ryan, and tonight we have a really good friend of not only mine, but of Benny and Moose and in the Schmodown group. He has some great Vegas stories for us tonight. I'm excited because this is someone who understands Vegas back in the late 90s, early 2000s, who saw what it was prior to all these big changes. So I'm really excited to bring him in, and it's going to be my really good buddy, Rob. What's up,
Hey,
buddy?
Ryan.
How's it going,
Thanks
man?
for having me on, buddy.
Thanks for
Appreciate
coming.
it.
I'm so excited, to have the group reach out to me like that and tell me you have some great Vegas stories. It got me really excited to bring you on. I'm really glad AJ told me to reach out to you. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. He must have. I was fortunate enough to meet him for a beer a couple of weeks ago, and he must have messaged you. I don't know, maybe in the parking lot of the bar we were at or something. Because by the time I got home, which was literally 3 minutes from my house, you had already messaged me, and Moose already messaged me. It's like, all right, I'm in.
Well, I'm really excited to have you here. I'm glad you took the time out of your night to come join me tonight to talk about it. Because I know we've touched base back, behind the scenes, talked about your time, and I'm really excited to hear more about it, especially since you're one of the few people who were around Vegas at that time where it was completely different than it is now. Hotel names are 100% different than they are now. And I'm really excited to get into that. So we'll go ahead and jump in. And so tell me again. So you moved to Vegas around when?
It was March of '99, I believe, is when I moved there. At the time, I was a chef, and one of my buddies, two of my friends, they moved out to open the Venetian Hotel. Nice. My buddy Andy Aboud he was one of the vice presidents of the Venetian when they opened up, and he calls me. He's like, "Hey, we got a bunch of awesome restaurants here," and he knew that one of my idols as a chef was Stephen Piles, who's really into like Southwestern and Mexican cuisine. So I'm like, he's opening a restaurant, I'm there. So at the time, I was a chef at a restaurant here in Omaha, and I got a hold of him, and then moved across the country from Omaha to Vegas, just alone. I knew two people, and the job. I started as a line cook. I was making $10 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I got an apartment right on Koval Lane, what's it called? The Sphere?
Mm-hmm. The Sphere is now.
It's right where the Sphere was. I
Really?
lived right on Koval Lane and the Sphere. That used to be a giant apartment complex.
Oh, man.
So I could walk to work.
So, okay, that's a lot to unpack right here, just right there. Because the Sphere has taken up a lot of ground at this point. They just finished building it, so I'm really excited to see that. Granted, it's U2 who's doing the opening concert, so whatever.
Never liked U2.
It looks amazing. So, for those who don't know, or if you've seen where the Sphere is, it's not too far off the Strip. It's a couple blocks, I would say, right?
One block.
One block? Okay.
You got the Strip, and then you have Koval Lane. It's to the east, one block to the east.
Okay.
So, like, if you're at the corner of, I think that's Paradise Valley.
Yeah, Paradise
and Koval. It's like right on the corner. You have the Venetian, then you have the Sands Expo Center, then you have Koval Lane, and that whole area. It was gigantic. It was a gigantic apartment complex.
Which it's not there anymore. So that's
No.
hilarious.
No.
So was it a culture shock coming from Ohio from Nebraska to here to Vegas?
Well, it was, but I had lived in New York. I had lived in Phoenix. I'd lived all over the country when I was a chef. But just one of the big things that was such a shocker was like just the depravity, the degeneracy of Vegas. And as a, as a 26 or 27-year-old guy, I was all about it. My wife likes to, whenever I bust out my Vegas story, she's like, "Oh yeah, Vegas, Rob," because it's
Totally
complete.
different Rob
I'm a
now.
completely different. Yeah, geez, I'm almost 50, and it's like married with two kids.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, my dog's
Oh,
being
no worries. So,
jealous.
so you were, 26, 27, single guy coming out to Vegas as as a chef. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was it was a blast, and I remember vividly. We were getting ready to open up the Venetian. We had did a couple of dry runs where we had like two, three, 400 people in, like on successive nights. And then it was like the 2 days or 3 days before the Venetian was going to open as a resort. And Sheldon Adelson, the owner, he walked through and he looks at the canal and he's like, "That's the wrong color." He's like, "It's too bright." And he's like, "We need to fix this." And like the engineers were like, "I don't know if we can fix this." And he's like, "You're gonna fix it because I put up 1.1 billion of my own money to open this and it's gonna be perfect. So change it." And he busts out, he had an aide that always had a picture book of Venice. And he opens up the book and he's like, "That's the color I need."
Wow.
So they postponed, like it was like it was supposed to open at like 9 a.m. a soft opening, and they were gonna have a big gala at night. They just stopped the soft opening and just opened it with the gala because the canal wasn't ready.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That had to have
it
been so
was.
much work to get that ready for that night.
Oh, people were frantic.
Oh my goodness. So that's okay. So that's crazy to think about. You were here for the opening of the Venetian. You were part of the opening of the Venetian.
Hmm.
Uh, how was it that first night? Like that first, let's say the first night in the first week. How was it being a part of that?
Well, we would, you know, we were only open. We didn't open for lunch to start for a couple months, so we got there at 9, or we got there at 10 a.m. and I was working from 10 a.m. to like probably midnight,
Mhm.
7 days a week for like the first 3 months.
Wow.
Just because whenever you open a restaurant, it's just every little ridiculous thing that can go wrong goes wrong, and you got to train staff and perfect the menu and things like that. But it was crazy.
So working in the in the kitchen like that, being that line cook was how was the menu for that opening? Like since you got to be a part of that, what were your thoughts on that and for the Venetian
Oh
of all
well, it was it was phenomenal. It was, I mean, it was just like 5-star Tex-Mex. He called Stephen Piles called it New Texas cuisine,
okay.
and it was just uh, the flavors were, and the authentic Mexican and Texas cuisine was just it was phenomenal. I was honored to be a part of it.
That's amazing.
And not shortly long after that, like maybe 4 or 5 months in, um, all of the restaurants were connected in the back, so we all the employees would walk in, and I got a promotion after a couple months because I would get all of my prep done in like 20 minutes, where other people it was well maybe a half hour. Everybody else on my station, I was working hot appetizers at the time. Everybody else, it would take like 4 and 5 hours. So finally, the head chef goes, "How are you getting everything done so fast?" Because we would have to like small dice like 14 bell peppers and onions, and we'd have to do all this stuff. So there's like 7 restaurants. So what I did is I would just walk into another restaurant. Like Emeril Lagasse had a restaurant. It was oh geez, I can't remember the name of it. Um, but he had a restaurant. There was an Asian restaurant next door and a seafood restaurant. So what I would do is I'd go over to the line cooks in the other restaurant. I'm like, "Hey, do you have any like small diced onions?" And they're like, "Yeah, I got some small diced onions." I'm like, "I'll trade you, whatever, some sliced peppers for your diced onions." And he's like, deal. Then I would go over to the Japanese restaurant. I'm like, hey, do you have any sliced peppers? I'll trade you some, and
Yeah,
I'll trade you some shrimp, some peeled and deveined shrimp. They'd be like, yeah, okay. And then then I would peel and devein shrimp and give it to the seafood plate. So I'd get all my prep done, like a half hour, just by talking to people and making trades. And the chef thought that was genius.
that is insanely genius. Wow. That would never have crossed my mind to do, but
Well,
that's ingenuity.
innovation and ingenuity normally, is brought on first by the lazy, which, I didn't want to spend 2 hours dicing peppers, and
Right.
there was another guy getting paid to do it, and I'll trade him what he doesn't want to do. That's how
That's
we worked that out.
that's awesome. So
And
so when they recognized your ingenuity and your brilliance in that, what did you move on to do?
I moved on to become the saucier and like the the kitchen manager, basically.
Okay. So
Yeah.
did you, within those first 4 months, whatever that time that you worked there in that first part, was there did you know of big names coming into your restaurant that you guys were
Oh,
looking for?
yeah, absolutely. As the saucier and like kitchen manager, I did a lot of like private. We had a private dining room, and I would be in charge of cooking all of their food. Like I got to cook dinner for Robert Mondavi.
Wow.
That was really cool. And there was a couple of geez, I don't remember who won the World Series uh, in '98, but like three of the guys came in for dinner. Um, and I cooked them, and they had it was probably a $45,000 menu,
Oh,
and or bill, not menu, a bill,
Bill.
because they ordered like three bottles of like $10,000 wine, and one of them was like a 1927 Chateau Lafite Rothschild, which was rated one of the 10 best wines of the century, because that list just came out, and they didn't even drink it all. So like there was like this much, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to take myself a
A little nipper. Yeah.
little nipper of that, and it was it was phenomenal.
That's
Yeah.
wow.
Hmm.
What was like one of your favorite things to cook during that time?
Well,
Two
it
years
was
in there?
all about the southwestern cuisine. We did some, we did a fantastic. We smoked a goat leg, a baby goat leg, and then we got a good smoke on that, and then we like shredded it, and then we stewed it in like some spices and stock, and then we chopped it up really fine. We mixed it with some barbecue sauce, and we made homemade tortillas, and we made like a little goat quesadilla. Cabrito quesadillas is what they call them.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
that
amazing.
was
Oh,
phenomenal.
that sounds so
And
good.
oh yeah, and then we had just like a regular, like it was, they called it the wedge salad, which was cutting edge in '99,
Hmm.
which they're everywhere now.
Now, yeah.
But we did it was a goat milk uh, ranch, which was pretty crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was really, it was fun to make. And then I got to make all the, I really got into making the moles, made the moles, and that was fun. That would, that's like a 3-day process.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. But it was
Hmm.
good. I would imagine it was really good stuff what you guys were
It,
making.
oh yeah, it was Delmonico's was the name of Emeril Lagasse's restaurant.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That
That rings
happens
a
when
bell now.
you're
That
old.
rings a bell.
When you get old, man, it was,
It finally clicked.
it finally clicked. Yeah, and I remember it was like opening weekend. It was Emerald had a bunch of people in his private dining room, and it was like Robin Leach from Lifestyles of the Rich and
Hmm.
Famous, and Jacques Pepin, famous chef, and a bunch of other like A-list celebrities at the time. They got so rowdy. There were apparently, I this is all just rumor and innuendo.
Hmm.
There was like all kinds of hookers there, and the cops got called, and they had this, and Emerald had to smooth it over.
Late 90s like that, I would believe that's true, especially in the Venetian, because they were, I mean, you look at now how different Vegas is now, but I remember late 90s, 2000s where just on the strip, you had all those guys handing out the cards,
Oh yeah.
standing in line, smacking the cards and handing them
Yeah.
out.
Hold on,
So,
I gotta. It's like this.
yep, exactly. And you don't see that anymore here. So people who don't
No,
know
they
what
don't
I'm
have those
talking about,
guys anymore.
there's like maybe like one or two spread out, but there used to be like a gauntlet line of them on certain
Oh
parts.
yeah,
5 or 6 of them standing in a row with all different cards, handing them out.
100%. And
So,
me as a Midwestern guy, I always felt guilty if I didn't take them. So I was always like taking them, like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's like I just throw them away, but it was just like, oh my
right.
god.
Because I remember up until my 21st birthday, so that would have been 2009, and they were still there because I remember taking some friends who'd never been to Las Vegas before. It was their first time ever. And I
Mhm.
warned them. I was like, hey, we're going to be walking. You don't need to take the cards from these people. Just keep on walking straight. And my buddy,
Yep.
sweet little Christian dude growing up, had no idea. He comes walking out with like this.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. So,
Right.
oh man.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like I said, you don't see that here today. So when I see the one guy out there, I'm like, oh, I remember. It's so much different. The gauntlet, it's not there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It was. The first couple months it was phenomenal because Madame Tussauds opened up.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't open up right away. It was a little while later, and Star Canyon was chosen to do all of the catering for it. So, we did all the prep, and we sent a crew over there, and went over there, and there was so many celebrities. It was like Don King was there, Billy Idol was there. Yeah, and like anyone that had a statue in Madame Tussauds at the time was there. Yeah,
Star
it was
studded. Star
it
studded.
it was star studded. And the crazy thing is the chef, we had to wheel the cooked food over from our restaurant over to like the bell tower. And the chef, he's like, we need to keep this hot. I'm like, okay, we'll throw some sternos in there. So he throws like 15 sternos in the bottom of this. And it got so hot, it melted the steel sheet pans above it. And by the time we got over there, it was smoking. I'm like, Chef, what'd you do? He's like, I don't know. So we opened it up. The thing's like on fire.
My goodness.
Dave Woodward was his name. Yeah, he was, yeah, he was quite the character as well.
so so with your time there, so okay, so you would get to work at 10 a.m. What time did you normally get to leave for the night?
Normally, probably the earliest was like midnight, but normally it was like, if it was Friday or Saturday, it was probably like 2 a.m.
Did you,
We'd be
because I
getting
know
out there.
nowadays certain restaurants aren't open certain days of the week. Was it the same back
We
then, or
were
were you
open
guys 7 days?
7 days a week.
So what were your days off? Did you get days off? Did you rotate them? How did that
Yeah,
work?
they rotated every other week. Like normally it was like Tuesday and Wednesday
Okay.
were my days off because they wanted me there for the weekend and then Monday to set up the week, and then Tuesday, Wednesdays were the slower days because anyone, since we were connected to the Sands, anybody that had a convention, they were gone by Monday.
Yeah.
No one had showed up for the next convention by Wednesday. So they normally would show up on Thursday. So those were our busy times.
Okay. Which is normal for people who come to visit Vegas. It's normally a Thursday, Friday to Monday type thing too.
Yep.
So tourists. What
Yeah.
on those 2 days off, since Vegas was still so, I mean, even 90s, it was still so sparse compared to what it is now.
Hmm.
Um, what did you do? What was your stomping grounds at those times?
My stomping grounds were, I'd go over to the Imperial Palace. I don't even know if it's still around.
That is not there
Uh,
anymore.
they had a fantastic sports book. It was like right next to the Venetian.
Hmm.
Um, and I'd go over to their sports book. I'd place my bets for the next couple days, and then I became I became friendly with a dealer over at the Imperial Palace, and I'd play blackjack with her. And then she moved over to the MGM Grand. So then I started hanging out at the MGM Grand.
So the Imperial Palace. Okay, so I have I want to follow up question to that, but I'll go back to Imperial Palace. Is now the Link.
The Link.
Yeah, so right
Okay.
next to Flamingo is the Link, which was the old Imperial Palace, and that's where they have the Link Promenade now, which is a big area for tourists for um, different restaurants and bars, and the Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club is down there. It's actually one of my hangout spots,
Oh.
so that's
Oh
kind of cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that whole area.
Do they still have a kick-ass sports book?
It's so they redid it. It's still pretty nice. They did redo it and modernized it, so it is nice, but it's 100% different than what Imperial Palace was because it was a late.
Yeah, I just remember they had every kind of ridiculous prop bet.
Yeah,
out there, even on regular days. It's like, all right, well, it's a Saturday in November. Who's going to score more points, like Nebraska or Shaquille O'Neal?
right.
It's like, how can you pass those bets? Right. It's just all kinds of prop bets. It was intoxicating. I couldn't resist.
There are some hotels that still do those kind of insane off the wall prop bets. Not so much on the strip anymore, more of the ones off the strip now. But the other part I want to go to is the MGM. And so I'm curious because I remember distinctly as a kid, again, late 90s, 2000s, I was a teenager, but MGM used to have a different entrance than it does now. When you were here, was it through the Lion's Mouth? Or was that after?
No, it was after.
Okay.
It was just after because, but I heard all the stories. They didn't want at the time the whales were all from Japan and China, and they didn't want to walk through a lion's mouth.
Right. Because I remember that entrance being that way on Las Vegas Boulevard as a kid. But not only that, but inside the MGM, back when it was themed, was the Wizard of Oz. Was that was late 90s still, wasn't it? That was like towards the tail end of it.
I think they had a lot of MGM characters, kind of walking around for people and stuff like that at the time.
Because I remember there was a spot to where there was a yellow brick road that wrapped around parts of the casino, and then they had the Oz buffet, which was like their huge buffet that had Glenda and all that walking through. And I remember that as a kid, and when they got rid of it, it was kind of sad because that was a very childlike theme. It was a cool theme for the casino.
I never really went to any of the buffets. I was a poor line cook, so I would walk up to Slots of Fun and have 2 half-pound burger or two half-pound hot dogs and 2 Miller Lights for $12.
That's so great. I love it.
I used to do that like 3 times a week.
Yeah, I mean, considering the fact that $12 for that, I would have done that almost every day. So I feel you, especially after being done cooking all day long, all night.
Oh yeah,
you want something easy.
Absolutely.
Did you spend a lot of time in your apartment, or were you out and about doing stuff? Kind of.
I would. At first, I just went home and went to bed, and then as the restaurant settled down, I could get home earlier and earlier. And when I became the kitchen manager, I was home by 10 o'clock. And it's like, at the time, Vegas was just waking up. So then I'd go out and, I'd have a gambling budget. I'd play a bunch of poker, and I wasn't allowed to gamble in the Venetian. So I would go to another casino. That's where I met the dealer at the Imperial Palace, who moved down to the MGM. So I'd go play poker, wherever I could, whoever was open, and play blackjack.
And when you would do that, it would be mostly at night. So I would imagine you probably heard some things as you were wandering around in those casinos at that time of night.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There was, if you want to talk ridiculous celebrity encounters, it was like I'm walking through the Venetian, and all of a sudden, some guy just runs right into me. He wasn't paying attention, and knocks me down, and he picks me up, and it's Kevin Sorbo. Hercules, because it was big at the time.
Yeah,
it was actually when he was a popular guy and didn't put his foot in his mouth. but yeah, it was like Kevin Sorbo, uh, Kevin Spacey was there. I was playing blackjack at the MGM, and Billy Crystal sat down at the table, and it was a full ring game. These were small stakes. It was like 5-10, I think, five between $5 and $10 a hand. And he sat down. And I'm like, Billy Crystal, and he's like, Hello. And I'm like, I don't care what anyone says. I'm like, I don't care what anyone says. My giant was funny. And he goes, You're probably one of the only people that thinks that.
That's hilarious. I'm a big City Slickers fan myself, so that would have been
Oh yeah.
amazing. You know, oh, that's awesome. And just playing poker, or is it blackjack for you guys?
That was blackjack. Probably my most memorable stories all revolve around blackjack.
Just random people walking up, sitting down, celebrities and what have you.
Just random celebrities, walking up. There was like I said, there was a dealer I was interested in, so he got moved up to the high stakes at the MGM. So it's like, all right. So I walk over there, and it was like, it was like $50 a hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only one there, so I was required to play two hands. So I'm like, $100 for two hands. I'm playing for a while. I'm doing okay. I got a pretty good system. I wasn't a card counter, but just the betting martingales and stuff like that. If you're into that, I was doing pretty good. I was up a couple bucks, couple $100, and then I was right in the middle, and all of a sudden, somebody slides next to me on third base, which is bad manners, and she throws down a $5 chip. So I kind of go to Lisa. I'm like, whoa, $5, and I try to get the pit boss. I try to get his attention. He looks over and he's like, let it go. And I look over, and it's Bette Midler. So I'm like, hey, Bette Midler. And she's like, hi. And so then, like, I got like 17 and 18, and she's got 13. The dealer's got a 5. So I'm like, all right, we're good. And she's like, ooh, I should probably take a hit. I'm like, you don't want to take a hit? And she's like, hit me. And, boom. She busts. And then the dealer, pulls like a 4 for, like 19 and busts me out. I'm like, son of a bitch, Bette Midler.
$5.
So I'm like, all right. Right. So I reload. I got, 50 and 50. And she puts another $5 chip next to me, still on third base. And I'm like, Lisa, this table minimums, come on. And I'm like, hey, table. And he's like, let it go. So basically the same thing happens again. She screws me. She placed third base terribly. So after I lost, $200, I'm like, hey, the table minimum's $50. He's like, $50? I can't afford that. And she storms off like I'm the asshole. It's Bette Midler.
Yeah.
So to this day, I have a personal hatred for Bette Midler. I hate her personally. I'm sure she's got some great, she's got some great movies and songs. I can appreciate her art, but personally, I hate her.
Screwing you out of $200 like that. Yeah, come on.
That's right. So, then I complained so much. I got some comps.
Good.
Got some comps from their steakhouse, which was I think it was David Burke at the time. Restaurant David Burke was their big, or no, I think it was Kraft Steaks was their big steakhouse. So then I asked out the dealer. I'm like, let's go to Kraft Steaks. She's like, okay. So then we go, I go on a couple dates, and then she tells me she's going to join the Peace Corps.
Oh wow!
I'm like, you're joining where are you going in the Peace Corps? She's like, I'm going to Africa. I'm like, oh man, that's crazy. That's crazy. Please be careful. It's dangerous. And then she's like, I'm going to be gone for a year, and then like 7-8 months later, I go back. I run into one of her friends who's also a dealer, She goes, "Did you hear?" I'm like, "Hear what?" And she's like, "Lisa died of malaria." I'm like, "What?" Like,
Oh my
so
God.
yeah, that was crazy.
That is insane. Oh
Yeah,
wow. Wow.
that's a
I,
story I don't tell too much. I don't even know if my wife knows the story of that story.
that's that's crazy. And to go from the city of sin like that to do something and join the Peace Corps. Like that's just unfortunate.
Oh,
It's crazy unfortunate. But
she's
I mean,
she was a super sweet, lady, and just yeah, just very giving, and just didn't work out.
well, that's
Which
unfortunate. So we'll, yeah. Wow. Did to plug right along on that. Try to bring it back
sorry
up.
to bring the sorry to
I
bring the show
well, good.
down.
Uh,
Let's talk
that's
about death.
let's talk about it. Uh, so the other part, and I know I've talked about this, and I think I mentioned this in past episodes, but prior to the Cosmopolitan being built, there was a stretch of land from where the Bellagio is all the way down to where Excalibur was. It was just open desert. And they had like the helicopter pads out there because for the longest time there was no New York, New York. There wasn't the Park MGM. It
There,
was
the New York was there when I was there.
was it there? Okay, so it was from
Yeah,
Bellagio to New York, New York. Then, um,
yeah. And like
because
The Monte Carlo was there.
mhm,
Uh, yeah, New York was there, and then the Luxor. Yeah,
mhm.
the Bellagio had just opened up previously before uh, the Venetian.
And you were there during the time then that the Treasure Island actually had that Pirates show out front. Was
Oh
that
yeah, yeah. We would have a little break area that was outside, so like every couple hours we'd go take a break, and you know, I didn't smoke, but a lot of cooks do smoke, so we'd go out into the back, and it was like right across the street. It had a perfect view of the pirate show, so probably if I think about it, I could go through all the songs for it.
right? Yeah.
But on I was there for you know 2000 for the New Year's Eve,
Mhm.
and I remember young kids today and people that aren't old enough to remember that, people were freaked out. They thought planes were going to fly out of the
Well,
ground.
yeah.
People in Vegas thought, all the bank accounts were going to go, the casinos were going to shut down, slot machines, nothing was. It's like we were going into the dark ages. That's what the fear was. And then like I don't know, it was like 2 months before New Year's, some like 14 or 16-year-old Australian kid figured out a patch, and he just it fixed it everything. So it
Yeah.
wasn't really a big worry, but we were slammed. We had all kinds of reservations. I think we had 800 reservations for New Year's Eve for the year 2000. And one of the coolest things the chef did was at like 11:55, he shut down the kitchen, and he's like, "Everybody, we're going outside." And he had a couple bottles of champagne. He poured us all some champagne, and then we got to see there was a gigantic fireworks show going on, that went off. Every casino had a bunch of fireworks go off, so that was cool. And then after the fireworks stopped, he's like, "All right, get back to work."
At least you got to see the fireworks for the
We
bringing in
did.
the
That was cool. We
new
got
day.
to we got
That's
to
what we
ring in
did.
the new year. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Hmm.
What else about that time? That first year you were there, I guess you were probably experiencing as much as you could, being on the budget you were. What do you remember distinctly from that time that like was one of your favorite things to do outside of the tables?
Oh, geez. I like to go explore, and you know uh, just different restaurants, and I would drive all over on my days off. Uh, for whatever reason, for a couple of weeks, I'm like, all right, I'm going to find the best cheesesteak in Las Vegas. So I would drive all around. I don't know why.
Yeah, why
Cheesesteaks in
not?
Las
Yeah,
Vegas.
why not?
Why
Right,
not? I was single. I didn't have anything to do.
right.
Um, and then, I'd go, at the time I was smoking cigars. So I'd go to different cigar places and smoke cigars, and, enjoy life. And there was a place. What was the name? It was Rosemary's. It was way out west on, I think, Sahara.
Okay.
And the chef there was from Nebraska, and the chef's name was Michael Jordan. And
Interesting.
a little interesting. No? So I'd go out there, every couple months, and just say hi and connect with another native Nebraskan, and he'd hook me up with a good dinner, and I just go like finding places to eat, and a lot of exploring of all the different casinos. Didn't go to a whole lot of shows. Went to some fights. Went to some boxing matches, which was that was that was insane. Now that I think about it, I went to go see the Lennox Lewis David Tua fight. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're there. We're in the stadium, and I had like 4 or 5 buddies come into town, and I get the tickets, and it's like we're in the nosebleeds, but there's like 20 rows in back of us, and there's plenty of rows in front of us. So it's like we find our seats, we're sitting there, and we're looking around, and in back of us, there's there's like probably 200 drunk Englishmen, just drunk and just screaming at people. And literally 1 row in front of us, there was like 200 like Samoans who were just as drunk, and they were just talking and screaming at each other for like the whole night. And it's like, you know what? This is going to get really, really violent. And like in the eighth, I think it was the 8th round or maybe the 7th round, some English dude just jumps over us into the Samoan pile, and they just start brawling. And then like all of these people, and I'm like, I have a very good knack of getting out of trouble. So it's like people are running there. I just go to the side, and it's like I hit the aisle, and I just, we walk up in back of the guys, and there was just like a huge ass brawl. Cops are showing up, and it was like that was probably the most dangerous thing that I was involved in when I was in Vegas. A brawl between the Samoans and the English. Oof.
Where was the fight at? Was it at the MGM?
No, I don't think it was at the MGM. I don't remember where it was at. I don't recall, but we were there, and was it Caesars? I don't know. Someone can Google it.
Now that you say it might have been Caesars, because Caesars did hold a lot of the boxing matches around that time.
It very well could have been the MGM or Caesars, or it was at Mandalay Bay.
Really?
That's where it was.
Okay.
I'm almost 100% positive.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Mandalay Bay, so that's got a lot of great spots.
Yeah, that was a cool place.
Really cool place. So the other part that I like to talk to people about, and again, you're the only person, the only person that knows this, and I want to bring in pictures. When I go home, I'm going home for a trip, and my mom has all these pictures from when we were kids, and I'm going to bring them back and talk about the show, because people who visit me now or who live here now don't realize, but like north side of the strip before Sahara, when Sahara was the original Sahara, there was a water park that was right before it, and it was the Wet and Wild back in the day.
Oh yeah,
before they moved
Absolutely. Did they move it?
Yeah, so they moved
apparently.
It yeah, so they closed it down, moved it outside of a different part of town. But I remember that right there was Wet and Wild, and that was like the staple for kids to come to when they're here in Vegas, and it was insanely packed.
Yeah, that was like right across the street from Slots of Fun.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. God, it's crazy how much has changed. I mean, back in the the circus was still polished and pretty back in those days.
Oh
too.
yeah.
So.
Yes. That was good times.
Did you ever go into Circus when you lived here?
Oh yeah. I went into Circus. I never went into Wet and Wild because it was like
there was no.
I was I was the pastiest of the pasties. It's like I was never outside in the sun, so I just knew that it would be like an instant sunburn if I were
Right.
to
Yeah.
go take my shirt off, and no one needed to see the blinding whiteness of my
Hail.
legs or dark. Yeah,
But Circus was a spot you'd go into occasionally.
just occasionally. That was mostly for families. You know,
Yeah.
I the stratosphere was still pretty new. I'd go up there every night. I liked playing craps at the stratosphere because they had 100 times odds uh, on
Oh
the
wow.
on the come out bets at least. Yeah, so I'd go up and play craps at the stratosphere. Went downtown a couple times, but at the time the Fremont Street was still pretty new. But it was like every time I went down there, it was like people were like trying to sell me drugs and like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
a lot of hookers and stuff like that. And it's like it was never, that was never my scene.
Well, the Fremont Street experience is 100% different now than what it was back then. Because we didn't go as much as kids, but as we got older, we started going. And then within the last 5 years, they replaced all of those light bulbs with LED screens.
Oh, really?
So it's now an actual screen. It's really cool how they do it down there. Concerts all the time. So it's a big 180 from what it was back,
Hmm.
99, 2000.
Sure.
So
Yeah, it was really cool. You had to go down there to see the Fremont Street experience. So I do
right.
that. Played, played some games over at the original Binions. So that was
Mhm.
cool. See the wall of $100 bills that was $1 million. That was
Yep.
always I thought that was pretty cool. But
They still have that kind of gimmick there. It's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
didn't they open up like a new Binion somewhere, or
They reopened it
they
down on
reopened it?
Fremont. Yeah, and it's different, but so it's
Hmm.
not they still have like the they still have all the money, but it's now piled in like a pyramid. It's $1 million. Kind of what they would wheel in during the World Series of Poker
Uh-huh.
in the finals. Kind of that kind of sense. And it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a cool experience considering the history of Fremont.
Considering the history of Binions, yeah.
Yeah, and Binions. I mean, Fremont was Vegas.
Yeah.
Fremont, it was the original part of Vegas. So uh, it
Yeah.
it's a lot
And
of
then they
history
had
there.
the flamingo, the flamingo. That was kind of like the first one on the strip, and then the
Hmm.
Mirage.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was good. And then when right before I left, it was the Aladdin opened up,
Yep, and that's
which I
now Cromwell, I believe, is what it is.
Cromwell.
Yeah, because Aladdin was right next to the Flamingo, wasn't it?
It was down. It was down a little bit.
Okay, and then
I think it
maybe.
turned into like the. I think it turned into like the Planet Hollywood or
Oh, okay, that would
the
make
Heart.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's
So
Flamingo, and then there's Paris, and then there's Planet
right.
Hollywood down that
Yeah,
way.
the Paris had opened by the time I left, and then the Aladdin opened. Yeah, and people were. I remember talking to people in the know, who know the casino business. My buddy, and he's like, "The Aladdin's gonna fail." I'm like, "Why do you say that?" And he's like, "Well, they're advertising the Miracle Mile of shopping." I'm like, "Yeah, people are. I think that's gonna be great." He's like, "Yeah, but," and he pulled up a map of it, and he's like, "But look at this. There's only three places to get to the casino."
Hmm.
He's like, there's not enough casino access. So if you're in the casino, it's going to be a hassle to get to the shops, and if you're in the shops, it's going to be a hassle to get to the casino. He's like, that's not going to last. And then I think it's changed hands several times since.
Yeah, well, it's Planet Hollywood now, and it is the Miracle Mile shops, still,
Hmm.
area, and it. I I understand that. I understand because once you get deep inside of Miracle Mile, it's a trek to get around
Oh
back
yeah.
to Planet Hollywood.
Hmm.
So I totally understand that. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
A lot of good
But
shows
yeah,
there.
a lot of good shows at Planet
Shows, a
Hollywood.
lot of good restaurants, and the Miracle Mile especially. I that whole area is great.
Yeah. I went to go see. This is also dating me. It was Lionel Richie at the Aladdin. So
Oh
that
wow,
was. Oh yeah, he was one of the acts there. Went to go see him. One of
I
the few shows I went to go see.
that's so crazy. That was so long ago. The Aladdin, that name, I forgot about that. Let's see.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it is the new planet. It is the Planet Hollywood, and
So what's
yeah,
the Now, when did the Aladdin close?
Well, it said that Aladdin closed in '97. So
No, it was definitely it closed in '97, but it reopened
yeah, I think you're right.
because it was a dump and they bulldozed it and they reopened it.
Yeah, okay, you're right. And then yeah, they closed it and they reopened it um, until 2005 when they rebranded it as Planet Hollywood. That's
There you
right.
go.
So there you go. That's a little bit of history. That was wow. That was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Did you ever go? So did you ever when the Flamingo opened? Did you go in there often to go
Into the
gamble?
Flamingo? No, the Flamingo back at that time was just a dump.
Mm-hmm.
No one, no one would ever, you know,
Go in there.
willingly go in there. That is like it was a hotel and casino in the decline. It was like the wait staff and the dealers. It was like the old crusty
Mm-hmm.
Vegas veterans that were there. Not with a good the costumes and the uniforms weren't. You could tell they were old, and it's like, yeah,
Right.
that's enough of that.
Well, and I
It's
know
like,
it's starting to revive now. Again, another spot that I like to go roll through occasionally and check out. The pool there is probably one of my favorite things to go do with the flamingo. So
oh yeah,
that's my spot. I know some people like to come because they do have that flamingo sanctuary outside at the flamingo. So there are flamingos out there. There's fish and stuff like that they can go check out.
is that on the Las Vegas Boulevard side or is it in the
Uh,
back?
it's in the so you'd have to walk to the back of the casino towards where the pool is.
Yeah,
You can get through, but once you're back there, I mean, it's a cool little area. It's an outside little resort that you see the flamingos and koi fish and crap like that. And right behind that is the pool area, which has its own little grotto, always DJ'd. It's a great spot for people to hang out. I'm a big
that
fan of
sounds like sure. That sounds like fun.
it. It's a blast.
Probably
Uh,
not my scene anymore. I can't handle loud music. I'm kind of getting to be a cranky old man.
yeah, but when your kids get to that, when your kids finally get to that age, that's where they'll need to go. So
Okay.
we'll need to go check it out. What did you work? So the restaurant, back to the Venetian when you worked, did you work there the
Sure.
entire time you were here, that same place?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked for Star Canyon the entire place, and the chef Dave Woodward. He was right before this caused my exit of Vegas. It was he he actually got Hep C when he was there,
Oh no.
so hepatitis C. So he had to quit,
Yeah.
and so I put in. I'm like, hey, I helped open this restaurant. I've been here the whole time. I've worked my way up. I applied for his job, and they said, you know what? You don't have a bachelor's degree in
Mm,
culinary arts. And I'm like, who has a bachelor's degree in culinary arts? So they're like, well, that's a requirement. I'm like, Dave didn't have a bachelor's degree in culinary arts. They're like, well, that's the new requirement. So
ugh, that's
I
unfortunate.
looked for another job, and as a as a head chef, and it was the same thing. It was like you need a bachelor's degree. I'm like, well, I have my associate's degree in culinary arts. So it was at that time I decided, you know what, I'm going to go get my bachelor's degree because I don't want to be passed up for a promotion for
Right.
just because of education. So that's when I moved back to Hyde Park, New York.
And you went back and got your bachelor's degree in
Went
culinary
back and
art.
got my bachelor's degree. Yeah, in culinary
Was
arts, and
just out of curiosity, did the stuff since you had all that experience, was it pretty easy to kind of get through that to get that bachelor's degree with what you've done?
well, I went to the Culinary Institute of America to get my associate's degree, which is, they consider it like the Harvard of culinary schools. It was the
Okay.
first one in America. It's the best. It has the same accreditation as like Harvard and the Ivy League.
Mhm.
Um, so, they think it's regarded as the best. And they had their bachelor's program there. So I went there, and it was, honestly, it was pretty ridiculous. It was very easy. There wasn't a whole the academic standards,
Right.
although they said that they were stiff. I'm like, I'm not the brightest guy, and I didn't like to study, but I got decent grades and got my bachelor's degree.
Wow, completely different from what you do now. It kind of blows my mind.
Yeah,
Complete difference.
100% different. Yes.
Swing the other direction. Was there any restaurants here during that time? Like, did you ever look at going to work for someone else, wanting to go work at another restaurant in particular?
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually, I was getting into Asian foods. And right next, it's kind of crazy. Right next to Star Canyon was a Japanese restaurant. It was called Red Star. So when you want to go work for a restaurant, you go and you do what's called a stage. So I did a 3 day stage there. Is basically you work for free. And the chef, he evaluates you, and then at the end, it's like he'll either offer you a job or not. And then like by my third day, he was like, you're gonna make the soup of the day. I'm like, soup of the day? Okay, sure. And he's like, don't be too crazy. So I made my soup, made the soup of the day. I thought it was excellent. And the chef comes over, just little tiny old Japanese guy, and really surly. And he comes over and he takes a sip of it, and he's like, and he kind of breathes in like that. And he's like, not bad for a round eye. And he just walks away. And then he just walks away. He doesn't say anything. He's just not bad for a round eye. And then he didn't even offer me the job. Well, no, wait. You know what? He did offer me the job, but he offered me the job for like $11 an hour, and I was already making quite a bit more than that.
Right.
So I decided to stay where I was at.
Oh,
One of the best compliments I ever got.
that's hilarious.
I still bust that out every now and then. Not
That's a
bad
good
for
one.
a round eye.
That's funny. That's really funny. And since you've left, you've yet to come back, right? You've yet to come back to Vegas.
I went back once. On my brother got married on 7707 in Vegas.
Oh,
We
wow.
stayed
Okay.
over. We stayed over at the Mandalay Bay. He got married. There was like a little chapel on the east side of the strip that we
Right.
walked.
Just right on the
We
other
had to
side.
walk. Yeah, we had to walk to because the taxi cabs wouldn't drive across the street, and it was like 120 degrees. And at the time, I had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. So it was
Miserable.
brutal. Because even though it was across the street, it was still like a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna imagine. Honestly, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it was called like the Little Brown Chapel, or
Something like that. Yeah.
something like that. My best friend got married in that same place. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, about 5 years ago now. So that's really funny. It's still there. Um, did you ever go to the sign? Because I know the sign has been a staple for most tourists. I've never gone to it because I don't get it. But
The Welcome to Vegas sign.
yeah,
When I first got there, when I was driving to Vegas the first time, I'm like, all right, I'm going to drive through the Grand Canyon. I'm going to drive by Hoover Dam, and then I'm going to drive up south, and I'm going to see the Welcome to Vegas sign. So I saw it the first day that I was there, and I don't think I've seen it since.
saw it again. Yeah. There's always a crazy line of people out now taking pictures in front of it. It's a tourist destination where the buses take people there. It's always a line, and it's ridiculous.
Could you hold on 1 second, Ryan? I gotta look at my dog. I think there you go. My sons are just getting back from a band concert. They had to stay late, so my dog gets very jealous if she can't go
out and greet
get
them.
pet. Yes.
So do you ever want to come back to Vegas? Would you ever come back to visit if you could?
You know what? I'm actually thinking about going back in October.
Right on.
I turned 50 in October. And my wife's like,
okay.
My wife's like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do for your 50th? I've been thinking, maybe go back to Vegas. Maybe go to Vegas.
So it's been 2007 since you've been here. So what, 16 years now since?
And I was only and I had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, and so we would go without the kids. So it'd be much different.
Well, think about that. You come, you call up cousin Ryan, and I.
Oh, cousin Ryan, we're hanging out.
We're gonna be hanging out, and we'll have some more Vegas stories to tell.
Sounds awesome. Doing in person.
Hell yeah, I love it. Yeah, we could do a lot. We could do a show recorded right next to each other. That'd be fantastic to do one with you.
I would love that.
It'd be great. So, is there anything anything else that you want to throw out about Vegas? Like anything that like stands out that we haven't talked about that was top of mind?
Well, geez, I would have to probably think more about it. I could probably come up with a bunch of more crazy stories.
Well, we'll have you back on because I would imagine living there for as long as you did even the short period of time, you have stories that are going to come back now that you're thinking about it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There, you know what? Here's a crazy story. And it's not even crazy. It just shows how naive I was. Me and a couple of other cooks, one night we go out to, I can't even remember the name of it was just a strip club. And it was on the west side. It was like in back of, I think it was like in back of Circus, right around that area.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going there. I've never really been big into the strip clubs. I never saw the point, in it. But like we're sitting there, we're having some drinks, and I'm like, all right, I got to go to the bathroom. And I go into the bathroom, and there's just like some dude like standing in the stall. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. And he's like, he's like, you want to come in? I'm like, no, go ahead, finish. I'll wait. So I go and I tell the guys, I'm like, dude, the craziest thing just happened. This dude, he like invited me into the stall. I don't know, he wanted to like cross streams or something. He's like, dude, that was like a male hooker. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. I'm like, why would a male hooker be in a strip club? And they're like, not everyone's straight, Rob. I'm like, well, why would someone that's not straight be in a strip club? I don't understand that.
Right.
There was a male review. There's Thunder from Down Under.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever. It seemed like, it wouldn't be best for business, but
right.
Who knows?
Kind of caught you off guard. Yeah.
It totally caught me off guard.
It caught me off guard too, 100%.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's hilarious. Well, I hope, and I know you will. I know you'll come back on. I know we'll have more stories to talk about.
Anytime you want me on, brother.
And I'm hoping to see you come October. If you do, let me know. I'd love to come see you and have a drink.
Okay.
But before we call it a night, is there anything you want to pitch? I mean, I know you don't have a whole lot of your own. You were a lot of a fan of the Schmodown and those guys. But is there anything you want to talk about? Anybody else you want to promote, talk about, say while I have you on camera?
No, I don't have a huge digital presence on Facebook. Mostly my Facebook feed is, my wife told me a couple years ago I needed to get a hobby. So I started cooking really in-depth, crazy meals on Sundays. And so probably 80% of everything I post is cooking pictures and how I cook stuff. Other than that, I'm currently an attorney in Omaha doing trusts and estates. If you need a will, get a hold of me. I can do it. If you're in Nebraska, probably a small percentage of your
viewers. Hopefully, we'll bump those numbers up. We'll bump that up hopefully.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it's you watch Benny and Moose. I hope to be on again. That was a whole lot of fun.
I have heard that there. It's going to spoil it, but I've heard that there is a match being written currently for you and your team, who apparently is going to be surprised, but you already know who your team is, so I'm excited for that show to come.
I actually do know who. Yeah,
I'm really excited for that because I get to host that one, so I'll see you there for sure.
Oh, I'll be there.
But everyone, thank you for showing up tonight. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it was one of the drunk trivias that you guys had on, and like, oh man, I wish I had a team. And then Moose was like, oh, I can get you a team. Are you interested? I'm like, yeah, I'm down. So then I think that's going to happen. So
I'm excited for your team. I really am. I'm really, really excited for your team.
It could be a blast.
It's going to be a big blast, especially with who we have you guys scheduled to play against. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic.
See, that I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who we're going again.
You'll be surprised.
You'll be surprised? Oh,
yep.
Boy. Okay.
It'd be a fun time. And I'm really glad that they had me reach out to you and had you on. I really enjoyed having you here. I love talking to you. The few times we have, having you on Benny and Moose has been great. Looking forward to more. But is there anything else that you want to say before we call it a night?
Hey, you know what? Go check out my friend AJ Lancaster's stuff. What the show?
Yep. Yes, I love What the Show.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a great guy. Well, everyone, thank you for coming out tonight. I'm your host, Cousin Ryan, and this is my really good friend, Mr. Rob Schaefer. Find our Twitter handles below. I'm Cousin Ryan 2021, Rob Schaefer JD on Twitter. Come check it out. He does post some amazing stuff on his Twitter. I do love watching your cooking stuff and the things that you do and the funny comments you leave on the Schmodown groups. The Twitters. So I really love it. But thanks again, man, for coming out. I really appreciate it.
Ryan, it was my pleasure.
It was a great time. Everyone, remember to click like, subscribe, come check out Benny and Moose's show as well. We will see you all around. I hope you all have a great night. Peace. And